The worst way to catch a cheating wife. This will be long as it happened a few years ago, and I just finally felt like sharing it after reading many stories and experiences here. It's my hope my story will help someone else survive cheating. I was married nearly 20 years to my ex-wife. I was a professional firefighter. Before we met, I began my career when I graduated high school at 17 and enrolled in fire academy with a parent waiver. I'm a fourth-generation fireman, and throughout our marriage, working my way as high as battalion chief before requesting demotion back to rescue captain of my department's rescue squad, since that was where all my certifications etc. were in. Once Christmas Eve we received a call for a structure fire at an apartment building. When we got on scene there was 18 residents unaccounted for. We began rescue ops, and in one unit I found a young husband and wife, got them out, and as a tender changed my air bottle, the young woman sitting with medics began screaming, my baby, my baby." I ran up to her and asked her, "Ma'am, what kind of baby? Am I looking for dog, cat, human, or what?" All she said was my baby over and over, so I ran back in. A short time later, I emerged with an infant. As I made my way out, something inside the building blew, sending debris everywhere. I was hit in the back by a piece of wood like a giant splinter. I somehow still made it to the triage area, handed off the baby, and collapsed. That was when the splinter was found sticking out of me. I was helicoptered to a trauma center. While on the way, I passed away twice and revived. I was taken in for emergency surgery. The splinter had nicked my heart, and I was dying. My wife was called by my crew and told of what happened, and she told my crew that she was not coming. She had better things to do than to worry about my ploy for her attention, and how I was using my job to try and get into her pants. I was in the hospital for 30 days as they would not release me until they were sure I was healed enough to return home in a very rural area, about 60 miles from where I worked, in a real hospital. When I was released, I tried to get my wife to pick me up. She told me she didn't have time to make that drive. I had to beg for a ride home, and when I finally found one through one of my crewmates, he accompanied me into my house, making sure I was okay and not alone. We walked through my home looking for my wife since her minivan was in the driveway. When I opened our bedroom door, I collapsed to my knees as my crewman came up behind me and shouted, "WTF are you doing?" We opened my bedroom door to find my wife in bed. She had a man under her in her kitty, another behind her in her butt, and a third in her mouth. At first, the thing that hit me most was the one in her butt and mouth. Things she never did with me, and that I had never tried at all, claiming I was too big and would gag her or hurt her. My friend helped me up. He took me out, then went in and gathered me some clothes to take. He took me to another friend's home where we explained what had transpired. Later on, the friend with me when I caught her told me when he went in to get things for me, the ex and her boy toys never stopped what they were doing, and he took cell phone video without them noticing. A few days later, my friends helped me find a lawyer and started the divorce process. Luckily, our kids were already adults now, so we didn't have that battle in divorce to put our kids through, because in court I learned that everyone in our friends group was getting some of my wife except me. She openly admitted to doing every man in town to the judge, and how I was nothing but a paycheck, and how she always hoped I'd die in the line of duty, and she'd get that $1 million life insurance we had if I was killed on the job. When we met and throughout life, she was always sweet and naive. She was a little slow in many things, but when her mom lost everything and moved in with us for a while, that's when my wife began to change. Her mom didn't live in the same house the entire time, as we bought a small building and turned it into a little cottage on the back end of our property so we could have her privacy. Once I moved her mom out back is when I noticed the changes in her. It was hard for me to notice red flags etc., as I was the only one working, and I would work 48 on and 24 off. The normal is 24 on 48 off, but because she refused to work, I had to work double, and even at times a second job to support 5 of us by myself. Wife, 2 kids, Mil, and myself. Since catching her, the home has been sold and everything split. That was mutual property, divided, sold and split etc. My crew rallied around me, being there to help me when needed, as well as to help me try to fight my way back to duty status, as well as be there when I need someone to talk to, and so on. Most of these men and women on my crew lived in the city we worked in, so it was an hour drive at least each way to assist me. I worked my ass off to get my career back. I wanted to hit the 35 years of service mark, then retire. When it came time to do my physical etc. to return to duty, I passed, but was subsequently called into the chief's office, where I was told, "Captain, you have 2 choices. 1. You can retire now at 30 years and keep your full pension and benefits, or 2. We will medically retire you, and you get half. I stuttered, but I passed my return to duty tests. The answer I received was, Captain, you are one of not the best fire rescue specialist I have ever known, but your age, your injury history, and your recent diagnosis of PTSD coupled with bipolar, the insurance company will no longer cover you due to high risk. So do you have a decision? I retired and left heartbroken and defeated. When my now ex-wife found out, she began tormenting me over it all, trying to drive me to suicide is my guess, but instead of letting her, when I left the area, began working in animal rescue to help pass time. It was the lowest point of my life. Living in an RV trailer running an animal rescue, and no one would give me a job. Sure, I didn't need to work, but I needed something to do. I swore off women, except for my sister firefighter. I didn't socialize or date etc. for a long time. I thought I would never be in a relationship again. I didn't know if I could ever trust anyone ever again. Then it happened. I began playing what I guess you would call once of those morp games where I met a woman. We would chat, eventually exchanged numbers etc. Then 18 months later she decided she wanted to meet me, telling me, no way, you're a perv or anything, because no one is going to invest this long to pick a target. This made me laugh harder than I ever had in my life. I'll be honest, I was reluctant at first because we had a 20-year age gap, plus we were different races. Where I live, interracial relationships are still shunned. Yes, it's Redneckville, USA, and basically still the Stone Age in many ways here, but I agreed to meet her. I can say it was the best decision of my life. She was everything I could dream of and more. She was old-fashioned like me. She was raised and believed a woman's number one job was her spouse and family, not money and a career. I have no problem with a working woman, but regardless, man or woman, family should always come before career or anything else. I guess it's kind of ironic in some way. I lost my dad to the Vietnam War, and here I am now married to a Vietnamese woman, expecting our first child November of 2021. Cheating is horrible, and maybe the worst thing we can go through. But please remember, it is not the end of the world. Nor are all men or women the same as you cheating spouse. The keys are: make time for you, get help, and find yourself again. Take your time and remember, something better is out there looking for you too. Is never an answer. Giving up should not be an option. You are strong, you can do it. A life can be rebuilt and become a newer, better one. Remember, life and love will always find a way. My wife cheated on me with 8 different men, a total of 23 times, in the space of 21 days. 7 years ago, my wife and I lost our child, 26 weeks, and made a termination, 18 weeks. After the termination, I became a gibbering mess, while trying to comfort our young son, 20 months, and left my wife in the hospital for about 8 hours, alone, after one of the worst things an expectant mother can experience. Afterward, she sought and received therapy, while I thought I was doing all right. 2 weeks ago, I come home from working away, 2 weeks on, 1 week off, to find several odd signs around the house. Lingerie in her underwear drawer, which she has never worn since I met her, and several sex aids packed in the next drawer down. I discovered these while putting away her clean clothes. She'd also organized to stay with her sister that weekend. It had been a long while since she'd seen her sister, and I was happy to let her have some time away. Upon her departure, she sent a text to her sister letting her know that she was leaving. I noticed the previous text message was change of plans. Can I stay at your house this weekend? Now, as far as I had been aware, she had always planned to stay at her sister's. Getting paranoid, I jumped on the computer and noticed that she had been perusing dating sites. Checking the histories, she had actually been checking them 5 to 6 times per day for 4 weeks. When she returned from her sister's place 2 days later, I confronted her about these things, and she claimed that she was no longer sexually attracted to me, but loved me as a husband and didn't want to risk our family unit. She thought that with a friends with benefits on the side, she would feel better, and so we would be better. After a lot of discussions, I offered the option of allowing that FWB on 2 conditions. 1. Not in our house or around our 2 children, 8 and 4 years. 2. Just let me know when and where, general location, no specifics. No details, no names, nothing, just an expectation of when she would be home and so forth. She agreed wholeheartedly to all of these. We discussed how important it was to be completely and totally open and honest about all this, as it was such an emotionally dangerous situation. Finally, I asked if she had already met with and slept with anybody, which she vehemently denied. The next night, feeling more paranoid after some comments she had made, I went through her phone. It took 3 hours. I found that she had already met and slept with 8 different men, a complete total of 23 times, in the space of 21 days. Several of them had visited our house after the children were in bed, and one had even visited with the wife while she was watching the kids at the local playground. Another one was married. A message she sent at 2:30 p.m. had asked if a visit was still possible as she had worked late, to which he replied, "As long as you're gone before the wife gets home with the kids from school at 3:25 p.m. And she went. When confronted, she went ballistic that I had invaded her private communication and declared our relationship over. I love my wife and don't know what I should do now. While I agree that I invaded her privacy, was it as bad as what she's done? Update. 12 months ago today, I made my Reddit account because I suspected my wife of cheating on me. Before I could ask for advice, I had my proof. I made the decision then and there that her betrayal of our relationship with multiple partners meant that I could never forgive her. Our 13 years of marriage was dead. The last few weeks I've finally started to feel good about myself. We can communicate, uncomfortable, but we can, and we can both move forward. I still feel conflicted. I love her with all my heart, but I really don't like her very much. I couldn't trust her as far as I could throw her, but I wouldn't trust my kids with anyone else. I can't imagine a future without her in it, but I'm looking forward to everything I can do without her. In short, I'm pretty sure that I'm still an emotionally messed up wreck. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I just hope it's not the headlight of an express train. I want to thank each and every one of you for sharing your pain and suffering. Your stories and tales of woe, and your stories of recovery and hope have helped me this far. Edit, to be 100% clear, I moved out the very next morning and will never, ever go back. Australian, so no concern about abandoning the house. Update. I'm just devastated, absolutely destroyed. Spoke to the ex-wife today, after chatting with the kids. And she tells me that she ran into the area director of DCP, our state version of CPS, while hanging off the arm of her latest conquest. Who the director knows, not just because he's not me, but because he's a local copper, and well known by DCP. And of course the ex tells the director all about how we've split up. As a result, after 5 years of working towards a guardianship order for my baby girl, I'm no longer eligible because I'm no longer the father in their eyes he is. I may be able to apply to be her respite carer, but I doubt that's possible, because I no longer live in the area. Meaning that when I pick my son up for our quarterly 2 weeks away, I won't be allowed, legally, to take her. I'm crying my eyes out right now, it's destroying me. She's been my little princess since we started caring for her at 4 days old, and now she's just gone. And she won't understand, due to her autism, why daddy can't take her too. And that's going to destroy her, and my son as well. She's won. She's destroyed my life, she's destroyed my relationship with my kids, and she's got the whole world thinking she's a wonderful person. Edit, so, she's been in our care since 4 days old, and her bio family have never had anything to do with her. I just been told that, until our next major review, they are happy to consider me as her foster dad still, but after that I will, possibly, be considered a respite carer only. Not what I wanted, but better than nothing. If, and I stress if I get approved as a respite carer, I'll be held to ransom about when I can have her. The divorce decree was today, and in 1 month and 1 day it'll be official. She'll keep cheating on her new fiancé because that's who she is. But I'm just going to quietly celebrate. And raise a glass in solidarity and hope for those of you who are struggling with the betrayal you've suffered.